Reynolds.
Here.
Mr. Natale.
Here.
Mr. O'Banion.
Here.
Mr. Pichon.
Here.
Mr. Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Tarver.
Here.
Reverend Wallace.
Here.
Dr. Washington. We have a quorum.
All right, so the only item on the agenda is weather event review and recommended procedures. We're gonna let, the staff has a lot of details to share and some recommendations to share. And then after they're done, we'll take the blue cards and then we'll do board discussion. We do have a couple motions that we're gonna have to get votes on at the end. Go ahead, Dr. LaFleur.
Yes, sir. We have endured quite a bit over the past 2 weeks in reflection of April the 10th and the weather event that took place. As we had stated after the initial review, we were going to methodically go through everything that transpired and ensure that this never happens again. And I think our staff has done a great job of coming up with the procedures and the protocol that will prevent this scenario from happening again. On this agenda, we will have crisis response team members. We will have factors for closures. Again, this is a lot informational, so you can gain an understanding of what we do and what we go through and make a determination. We will have data information sources, current policy and procedures for weather-related events, our crisis response room, transportation handbook guidance for inclement weather, National Weather Service briefings on 4/9 and communication on 4/10. We will review the items that we addressed and felt needed to be addressed, and then the recommendations that we come up with. We will look at delayed start procedures. We will look at another tool that we can utilize called BAM Weather. We met with our ward captains to get input, to hear their concerns. They gave us great input, gave us their stories, and gave us an opportunity to adjust daily delayed procedures that we're gonna recommend tonight. So we're very appreciative of that. Approval for delayed start procedures, we will ask you for that. Instructional minutes plan and proposal. Approval of instructional minutes plan and proposal. And then of course, having blue cards. So on our crisis response team, we have these members. Myself, Shannon Clark, Superintendent, Jason Van Meter, the Chief Academic Officer, Robert Barentine, Chief Operating Officer, Wilford Bourne, Chief Financial Officer, Aaron McDonald, the Director of Transportation, Jay Bergeron, Risk Manager, Holly Holland, Public Information Officer. Factors that we look at for closure or opening pre-April the 10th. The scale of the storm, the areas that can be impacted. Part of the parish versus the parish, depending on what we get in the forecast and in those specific situations where the watches are. The event time of the forecasts. The sustained winds, 30+ miles per hour. The universal standard is actually 40 miles per hour for taking buses off the road. We actually have a 30 mile per hour threshold. So 10 miles per hour below the 40 miles per hour that is applied in many states. 10 inches of rain within a 24-hour time frame. Ice on roads, of course bridges, and severe cold due to wind chill, in which we closed this year because of wind chill factors in the single digits. Other factors. We currently do not use gusts nor tornado watches as reasons to close schools. We have restricted movement for the impacted areas for tornado warnings and severe flood warnings. take into consideration a transportation mobilization time, which is a 2-hour minimum to complete bus transportation throughout the parish. Again, we have 1,100 square miles, we have over 260 routes, and that plays into the amount of time it takes for us to make a call. Data or information that we utilize, we have the National Weather Service decision support packets, we have weather briefings, and we have alerts from the National Weather Service. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the Weather Channel, Slack, which is the National Weather Service platform that will be described to you here shortly, KPLC Storm Center and KPLC News, and the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness alerts. Current policy procedures and procedures for weather-related events. There are no existing policy nor procedures for weather closings or open in Cauchy Parish. Procedural. The current communication procedures is what you see the graphic on the left. That's weather information. CPSB officials consult with area emergency officials and meteorologists before making closure decisions. And then how will you know? When will you know? Your family's decision. That is then on our website. This year, our administration looked at the fact that we did not have a coordinated crisis response team, nor an area where we could access all information in real time. So now we do. We started that at the beginning of this year. We created a room that has video conferencing, conference calls, scale maps of the parish and Lake Charles, contact information for board members, school and district administration, emergency services, transportation radio, incident command structure, wind chill charts, security data, access to system-wide security cameras throughout the entire school system, public information officers, satellite communication center. In fact, we coordinated bomb threats at Dolby Elementary and Oak Park Elementary. They were handled within this room, and we do get our weather briefings in this room. Again, we're outlining information that's going to lead to an understanding of why we're making the recommendations that we're making. Mr. McDonald, you would like to address our current transportation handbook guidance at this time?
Good evening. So when we're facing crisis situations, the protocol is for our department to guide and direct our driving staff, our support staff that are on the buses with our students. On the morning of April 10th, I was at the helm of that dispatch system and solely the one on that system. Our office was taking calls, and I directed our supervisors and clerical staff to answer those calls. So I was the one on the dispatch to get our drivers through that morning. Any questions about how we operate during severe weather?
You can.
Yeah, I'm gonna
read the
cut you off there.
handbook.
We'll be here forever. We'll take all the questions at the end, and you're not planning on cutting out soon, huh?
No.
Right. So at the end, we'll take questions, and they'll call you if they need you.
As you can see, the guidance there, in the event of an emergency such as tornadoes, thunderstorms, explosions, hazardous road conditions, you will be instructed, as he said, by transportation as to what procedure to follow. And again, this is important information because we've got recommendations from the board captains about specific guidance related to that. So it's part of the information that you're reading. For April 9th, there was a National Weather Service briefing, first briefing, and present briefing were crisis response team members, Robert Barrington, Jay Bergeron, Holly Holland, and Aaron McDonald. CRT members, myself and Dr. Van Meter were with the STEM team touring the Michoud NASA rocket facility in New also scheduled to go to Baton Rouge, Baton Rouge to speak with, Dr. Aspinwall from Suella about our partnership before the Louisiana Community of Technical Colleges. So I'm leaving early in the morning of Wednesday, to do that. Mr. Bourne was out of state on vacation, so that gives you an idea of the team members over that 48-hour period and what was transpiring. Mr. Bergeron?
Okay, thank you, good evening. This is one example of some of the graphics we get when we do a National Weather Service briefing. They give us a kind of a slide deck, but primarily what we're looking for is for rainfall totals and sustained winds. As Dr. LaFarge mentioned earlier, we're looking for sustained winds of 30 miles an hour or more, rainfall totals of 10 inches or more. So rainfall totals of 10 inches or more in a 24-hour period are very, very, very rare. But we do look out for those each and every time. So primarily what we're looking for is sustained winds. And so at our request for the National Weather Service, I know it's very small print, but these are the sustained winds that were given to us for that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It tops out at 22 miles an hour. And so that was what we were looking at the latest slide deck we got at 2:46 in the afternoon on April 9th. And then this is the latest slide we got the next morning at, it was created at 5:28, we got it at 5:44. The graphics and the forecast didn't change in what we got coming from the National Weather Service. And again, we look at several different things. We're looking at not only at these, but we're looking at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the Weather Channel, KPLC, and SLAC. Next slide. And SLAC is just a live chat channel where all of the stakeholders in the area, from Anahuac, Texas, all the way over to Morgan City, and then Lumberton, Alexandria, all the way down into Cameron, all have access to meteorologists and have a chance to talk directly to one another. But it's extremely extensive. It's an ongoing chat channel, so it's not used as a notification system.
I'm gonna make note of a couple of things that the group, informed me of and looked at on the 9th. And, that was examining as you look at the colors on the right, that is, the yellow is called a slight risk, and it's very small print in the legend on the bottom right. And then the orange, it's an enhanced risk. So again, I'm making note of that because that is gonna give an indication why we chose certain recommendations. So you can see that is the slide we're looking at for enhanced and slight risk of severe weather. If you look at the red area, a lot of the forecasts were to the east and to the north of us with severe weather. We had questions about state agencies closing. And again, if you look at the Baton Rouge area, once Baton Rouge closes, their state offices, a lot of satellite offices throughout the entire state close. So the cascading effect of school closures generally was from right to left or from the east to the west. If you look at the sustained winds, again, it was mentioned to you by Mr. Bergeron, we played heavily into our decision with this chart of sustained winds. We closed in the afternoon with a forecast of 30+ miles an hour sustained winds, not having the buses on the road exposed to a consistent sustained wind of 30+. Again, the universal standard that we were aware of was 40 miles per hour. If you look at the slide on 410, the next morning, essentially it was the same. So you have an enhanced risk, portion of the parish. You also have slight risk, and then the marginal risk is the green, and then you just have thunderstorms all the way to the west. this is, important because it leads to recommendations at the end. Ms. Holman?
Good evening. This is just a brief text message that I sent to both John Bridges and Rhonda Kitchens on the morning of April 10th. Dr. Lafarge had called and asked if I would just shoot them a text to let them know that we were open, which I did. You can see here on the screen, and John read that in 2 minutes live on air verbatim.
And in this message, we anticipated, and again, this is leading towards our delayed start procedures. In a way, this is quasi delayed start in real time, making the decision that we made. Our bus drivers are proceeding with caution and will take their time to safely transport students. We know our families will be doing the same. We fully anticipate arrival and take-in procedures to be delayed slightly this morning across the district. And we fully understand the impact the weather will have on this. Items to address based upon our review: real-time multi-information platform monitoring, so all the different resources and the platforms that we utilize. This was an item that we needed to address. Buses on the road, students at stops. What is that time threshold for mobilization of closing and opening? That is something that we needed to address. Communication with the stakeholders, communication with schools administrations. We knew that was something that needed to be addressed. Team communication, that is within the crisis response team. Another item that needed to be addressed. And then overall, at what risk level should we call for a school system shutdown? What is that overall threshold based upon the data points that we have? Recommendations coming from review and coming from input, coming from feedback. Quite simply, just add delayed start to our options. That is the most significant and important piece to this not happening again in the early morning hours of any type of intake or severe weather associated with our intake. We received input from the board captains in developing these delayed start protocols, and we thank them for that. Identify threshold in the decision packets for closure opening. As I mentioned earlier, enhanced orange. That is now, without question, going to give us pause and a cause for greater concern. Because enhanced risk and then the slight risk associated with what you saw on that graphic now obviously means something much more to us. We will request of the National Weather Service that they hold weather briefings at 7:30 p.m. the night before forecasted morning weather, such as they did this past Sunday night, which significantly impacted whether or not we were going to have school the next morning. And of course, you know that we closed on Monday. Increased announcements of status. Is there a threshold in which there's too much communication? I think, we're in that phase to where I'm okay with too much information because it wasn't enough information, definitely according to the public and feedback from staff. And that's something we definitely want to recommend internally for us so that we know to push out that information. The delayed start procedures that you have before you. During a delayed start, school will begin at 10 a.m. These guidelines are what our families can expect when the Calcasieu Parish School Board must implement a delayed start to the school day for students, faculty, and staff. This may be implemented for various reasons, including but not limited to brief times of severe weather, extreme cold temperatures, and frozen precipitation. How will you know the delayed start option that we essentially are pressing that button for? You'll receive a phone call and or text. You can go to www.cpsb.org for information on our website, social media at CPSB schools, and the local media outlets. When will you know that we're pushing this button for a delayed start procedure? We will inform families, students, and staff by 9 p.m. If a closure is necessary, or if a closure decision will be made the following morning, we will give you that information at that 9 p.m. announcement. If the decision is delayed in the morning hours, communication will take place at 5 a.m. If your child rides a bus, we're asking that you please have them at their designated bus stop exactly 2 hours later than normal. A modified breakfast will be provided on these days. Routes between campuses for programs will be modified and determined on a case-by-case basis. Communication will occur with families as needed. Alternative sites will conduct virtual days instead of delayed start to free up our busing routes and delivering students to the schools in a timely fashion. Again, we have your family's decision. If you feel conditions are not safe, you may choose to keep your child at home, and that's already in the current graphic that I showed you earlier. Other recommendations. Again, we felt like the most significant and impactful recommendation is going to be the delayed start. But other recommendations: monitoring multi-weather information platforms, assigned roles. We have enough CRT members in which we can disseminate which role will be assigned to certain individuals so that we can ensure we have a full grasp of all the resources that are out there. Partnering with a vendor for tailored alerts for CPSB. That's called a BAM alert system. We set the established threshold for the alerts, so we get to set wind speeds, we get to set amounts of rainfall, and then it's almost like a personalized weather service strictly for Calhoun Parish school system. So this is just an additional resource in which we would receive notifications, we would receive graphics, we would see other meteorological perspectives specifically used as a vendor for CPSB. In addition, of course, we still have the National Weather Service, we still have KPLC weather team, and all of the other resources that we mentioned before. The crisis room, in examining that we're not in there in the early mornings, but as soon as we press the option for delayed starts, if we can get into the crisis room at 4 a.m. so we can have all of the resources at our fingertips, we would like to do that. If not, it could be due to weather. We need to have a Zoom call among the district leadership or among our crisis response team to make an effective decision. Mr. Bergeron, can you talk about the BAM weather app?
Yes, BAM Weather is a vendor based out of Indiana. They have 10 different meteorologists that are working directly for their partners. Basically, like Dr. LaFarge mentioned earlier, we set parameters that we want to pay attention to. Like further up north, they're going to pay more attention to soil temperature, road temperature, and ice. Whereas we're not as concerned about that here. We're mainly concerned about those sustained winds, those rainfall totals, the flash flood warnings. So we can set those particular parameters, and anytime that something like that could happen, they're going to push out those alerts directly to us well in advance, 6 to 12 hours before that event could take place. So like Dr. Clark said, it's just a much more tailored alert system. We have direct access to meteorologists 24/7, 365. We just don't have that right now. So this vendor to me would be very, very valuable in getting those alerts that are specifically of concern to us in a timely manner.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. Ward Captain meeting input. This was their recommendations. Updates to the standard operating procedure manual for transportation, specific to weather-related events, severe weather training, or driving in certain types of severe weather. They gave great input for the delayed start procedures. Initially, we didn't have breakfast on there. They know their kids better than anybody, and then having the kids availability to get a grab-and-go breakfast before they get into the school day be, as soon as they get to school, they'll have their grab and go breakfast, won't be a full breakfast, but realize that lunch will be taking place probably an hour and a half or 2 hours from their arrival on campus. There will be the release time for a delayed start. We will not release 2 hours later in the day. That obviously causes logistical issues for, after school care or parents picking up students and so on and so forth. So the release time will be the same as it is at each and every school currently. And then, of course, they wanted us to have increased communication and access to schools. So those are things we're definitely, taking into consideration and also implementing as we go. What we like right now, staff recommendation is to implement the delayed start procedure, as mentioned and noted.
So what I wanna do here is, I'm gonna get a motion to, approve the delayed start procedure, if I can get a motion. Motion, Mr. Wallace. Can we get a second down there somewhere, Mr. Pichon? Okay, but we're gonna wait until, just delay the vote till we gotta get the blue cards, we have board discussion, but we're gonna get the motions on the table. Go ahead.
The next recommendation is based upon instructional minutes for the school year. Dr. Van Meter, present our recommendation.
In this year's calendar, we have 4 emergency days budgeted for instructional minutes. We have used 5.5 weather days this year. So basically, we've got to pay for 5.5 days worth of instructional time. The first plan is to extend the Wednesday, the May the 22nd, which is a half day for students, to be a full day, which would pay for a half a day of instructional minutes. And then the second recommendation is to convert Thursday, May 23rd from an in-service day to an instructional day for students. Now, what this would do is not increase our teacher contracted days, so our teachers would not have to work additional days. And what would happen is we would have instructional minutes met for the year. So that's our 2 recommendations.
This is the calendar look of the recommendation. You can see the graphic as he noted the days that would be impacted.
So I have already spoken with the MIS department where I used to be, to make sure that we could close school with 1 day like this, because that's not something that we would normally do. They said they could do it. Also contacted our I was concerned about our very large high schools because they utilize teachers to stuff transcripts and things like that on that last day. With the help of MIS, getting them things as quickly as possible. I talked to the 3 biggest high schools and they can all make things happen in that 1 day. So.
Okay, so we're gonna need a motion on that, but we can't have 2 motions on the table at the same time, so I will pick that up after we finish the other motion. We'll pick that back up, and they may call you back up, ask questions. Go ahead, Dr. Park.
Before you take on those 2 motions, we have reflected, personally reflected, as a team reflected on April the 10th and the impact it had on our system, not just the system, on Southwest Louisiana. As I stated before, Mr. Brookhouse told me the number one decision, the hardest decision you're ever gonna have to make as a superintendent, to whether you open or close the school. And I witnessed it over these years. We've had instances that we may have regretted, in which buses were in floodwaters. We had to rescue students from buses. Because maybe we didn't close school early enough. 2021, we had students who were out of school till late at night because of the floodwaters. So we do our very best to take into consideration a lot of factors. In this particular case, decision that I ultimately made was incorrect, and if I could go back, God, if I could go back, I would make a different decision. So, take into consideration a lot of things, especially not being here in person as a superintendent in real time during the weather briefing, and then actually on the road and preparing for a presentation. I was in the wind event on the road, and I was able to witness, as I had mentioned, our drivers being rock stars on the road, parked, flashing in safe areas, not moving, just as what they've been trained to do by the Transportation Department and Mr. McDonald. In our meeting with the board captains, they asked for more autonomy to be able to make those decisions. Well, they made them. They made them and they were effective. Because again, at the end of the day, all of our students were safe. All of our staff was safe. We were very fortunate that happened. But those are things that we have to reflect upon. And ultimately, through adversity, because adversity comes in many forms and fashions throughout a school year. Whether it's school discipline, go to trial for school discipline, weather events, fights on campuses. So many different things that occur during the school year that we take care of, and we do an effective job as a staff to address all of these issues. In this moment, we identified deficiencies, but now we also know through adversity, you can have significant growth to where on the other side, you're actually way better than you were before you experienced the event or you experienced that set of circumstances. I am very confident in what we've laid out here procedurally, that we will be better from here on out than ever before in the Calhoun Parish school system with regard to preventing this from happening again. With the delayed start option, this can't happen again. So, we're appreciative of our staff, our stakeholders, our community. They were angry. I absorbed that anger. But it's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to make it right. Thank you, Mr. Carver.
Thank you, Dr. Park. I'm gonna go with blue cards first. We're gonna hold the board discussion until after the blue cards. If that's all right, we'll get the blue cards out of the way. We got 12. We don't have any more, huh? Nobody else? Okay, so we have 12, which means 5 minutes per person. I'm gonna be very lenient with topic, but we're gonna be firm on the. We got one more happening. Again, being very lenient. We got 2 more happening. Okay, so I'm gonna be very lenient with the topic. I'm not gonna be telling people, stay on topic too much. We are gonna be very strict with the time, just to respect everybody's time. That'll be 14 blue cards. Anybody else? Once we start, actually, once the agenda item starts, that's the end of the blue cards. Anybody else while we're filling these 2 out? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. We're gonna let these 2 ladies finish real quick before we start. All right, and these are in no particular order. Addie Anderson. Five minutes, and I'll try to politely let you know when you have 1 minute left.
Thank you. Members of the Calhoun Parish School Board, I'm addressing you today regarding the failure to cancel school on April 10th. Despite multiple severe weather warnings, not watches, but warnings, including tornado and destructive winds, on that day, school buses were perilously close to deadly tornadoes, some stranded on the side of the road while being battered by high winds and heavy rain. The children aboard these buses were terrified. Their safety was compromised. What is perhaps the most disturbing is the lack of a genuine apology or any remorse for what our drivers endured on that harrowing day. This is not the first time these drivers have been put in such a situation, and each time this board promises to do better, yet time and time again, no action is taken. Once everyone forgets about the incident, everyone forgets about the drivers. Our bus drivers deserve better. They deserve to feel valued and respected, not disposable in the face of dangerous weather conditions. It is unacceptable that they repeatedly place themselves in harm's way without any meaningful efforts to mitigate the risk that they take. Just as teachers take classes and pass tests and earn their degrees to become professionals in their field, bus drivers must complete commercial driver training, pass knowledge tests, and demonstrate proficiency in every aspect of bus operation before they can even begin driving and taking the test. School bus drivers are certified licensed professionals in their field. Furthermore, considering the hazardous conditions our bus drivers went through, it is only fair and just that they receive some sort of hazard pay for their bravery and dedication to ensuring the safety of our children time and time again. I implore you, as members of this esteemed board, to fulfill your duty to ensure the safety and well-being of our students and staff. It is not enough to offer empty promises of improvement. We need concrete actions to address these systemic failures. The time for change is now. Let's not wait for another near tragedy to occur before we take meaningful action. Our bus drivers and our students deserve better than what they have been given. For all the love that they pour out into these students year after year, time after time, they deserve better. We have a saying, no one notices the bus until it doesn't show up. No one pays attention to bus drivers as long as routes run on time. No one even knows your name until you do something that they didn't approve of. Soon as you tell someone you're a bus driver, the first response is, they would never do that, and they don't know how you do it. Yet these bus drivers are underpaid and underappreciated. It is with great hope that you take these words to heart and consider your actions towards these licensed certified professionals. Thank you for your attention in this matter.
Sharon, welcome.
Good evening. I too would like to address you guys about the incident on April the 10th and our feelings of your lack of concern, your lack of interest for our performance. You always say it's about the kids, it's about the kids. If it was really about the children, y'all would have canceled school. You wouldn't have taken a chance on what might have happened. The safety of the children is what did happen. I had 27 little people on my bus. Had I not gone out, jeopardized myself, my life, my license, because if something happened, it was gonna fall back on my license. I wouldn't have a license because I tried to see about the children. You guys never, ever came and said, Dr. LaForge read a statement on the news with just no remorse, no feelings or anything. No one ever said. And actually, I'm sure 99% of us that's here tonight had someone from the school board, the administrators, Dr. LaForge, Dr. Barentine, anyone, just like he got on the news and read that statement, had he said at the same time to our bus drivers who was out there, I had to back up and go over tree branches with trees falling, lines coming down. I couldn't even see the hood of my bus, but I was there trying to rescue these children that had we not gone, would have been standing on the corners and outside with these 90 mile per hour winds. What would have happened to them? got going and something would have happened, it would came back on us. The driver should have been there. We didn't call school off. So they had the responsibility of picking these kids up on time. And it was not fair that time and time again, this is not the first time, actually it's not the fourth or the fifth time, that y'all have put us in situations to jeopardize our lives and ourselves. And past members have said, well, you should have used common sense and you should have gone. But that's not how it goes. That's not how the parents see it, and really that's not how you see it. Us using common sense, I did because I told my child to stay home, but I risked myself to go see about somebody else's child. So had you all guys just, you don't have to put the finger on who made the mistake. A mistake was made. Just simply say a mistake was made. We apologize for putting you in that situation. We thank you all for what you did and show us a little appreciation. That's all we ever ask for. And all the times that we have been put in these situations, not one time have y'all publicly thanked us or appreciated us. And enough is enough. This is it. My license will be on the line, but I'm not going to jeopardize myself because of your negligence. So if you neglect those 27 babies that would have been on the corner, let them fall under your name, not mine. Because I got mine. Thank you for hearing me.
I want to speak about April 10th, the morning. I can't really say what everyone's been through, but I can really tell my story. Today marks 20 days that I've dealt with trauma, crying just out of nowhere, trying to earn the trust from my parents again to allow me to be their bus driver. Even if they don't feel that way, that's how I feel. It's hard getting up every morning knowing that these parents are trusting us with their kids' lives. And any wrong turn, any little mistake can cost a life, if not everyone's lives. And it's really hard for us to just, it's hard for us to keep going right now. Just to hear that we didn't get any type of apology, that really hurts the most. Just to know that we really put our lives on the front burner, and we didn't, at that moment, I can't speak for everyone else, but at that moment, I did not care about my life. I cared about my children. I had 7 children on board. We were stuck in the middle of the road, less than 1.8 miles away from the tornado that hit down on Ryan Street. We were stuck. I was facing towards the wind with the wind coming at my windshield. If a tree, anything, flying object would have went through my windshield, I probably wouldn't be here right now today. And that's just my story. We have other drivers that risk everything by bringing them into their homes, bringing them into other people's homes that they don't even know, but they knew that if anything was to occur, they were going to save them children. We've been put in multiple situations, every day. And if nothing happens until something happens. And that's our problem. I've always said, why can't we fix the situation before it becomes another situation? As I look on the crisis team, the board, our leadership, I have not seen, and maybe I'm wrong, but I have not seen not one CDL driver, not one bus driver. I really do feel like across the board somewhere, it should be a bus driver on it, either on a crisis team, in an office, because at the same time, no one knows what we go through on a day-to-day basis. When we have to turn around, if we have kids on a bus, we cannot get off our bus to go to the back of the bus, look and see how far the ditch is, or this, that, and the other, but we have to take them risks. And if you all have been in our shoes, driven kids, dealt with the attitudes, the seating arrangement, the fights, anything along with looking at traffic, looking at that car that just jumped in front of you, slamming on your brakes, making all your kids hit the back of your seats. Like, we go through so much and we can get sued for just that. But at the same time, nothing's in place to help us, because I just really feel like we don't have anyone with a certified CDL in the office. I mean, that's the only way I can really put it. We really need a CDL driver that's been driving for a couple of years, if not 10 years or more. We need the guidance. You all need the guidance. Because we could have called it that morning. That's just like I was telling my director. I feel like if you're a director of transportation, you can ground your buses. You can ground them. As a director, I'm not saying anything negative about Mr. Aaron McDonald, because he knows I got him. But at the same time, we need help. He's just one person, he can't do it all by himself. Thank you.
Renee Rule.
Renee Rule, representing Calcasieu Association of Educators. My address, 1007 6th Street. One, I'd like to say thank you. I know many of the school board members reached out to us. We were included in the meeting today with Dr. LaFard and Mr. McDonald to represent our members and their concerns. And so for the most part, it looks like, it feels like you are hearing us, you're listening, and many of the concerns were addressed. Or are being addressed, and we appreciate that. The greatest concern that I did hear expressed by members that I want to share with you, and I don't know if there's going to be a protocol for it, or if there's going to be a procedure for it, but it's definitely something you need to hear. It's going to kind of piggyback on Mr. Arver, several of our bus drivers, their statements. They need to know that the school board, district level admin, building site admin have their backs when they make decisions that are difficult. Now, I'm in a unique situation. I get to often interact with y'all or district level admin, and I see that. And I try to share that often with my members, that we are a very blessed school board, school district. Our school board, our district level admin, they care about our children, they care about education, and they care about their employees. That's appreciated. But most employees do not have the interactions that I have the opportunity to have. And therefore, they don't know these things. Most of their interactions are going to be at a building site level with their building level administrators. They don't know if they make a difficult decision, will there be retribution? Will that come back on them? So I would like to express that for my members and anyone else that that's going to come down from CPSB, school board members, district level admin, and building site level admin. They need to know that y'all have their back. When they make good faith decisions, they will be supported by the school board, by the district, by their building site level admin. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rule. Andrea Mott.
Good afternoon, I'm Andrea Mott. I am the president of Calcasieu School Bus Operators Association. And I was able to sit in on the meeting today that we had. And the delayed start, there was some issues with that. I mean, as far as, you know, there is drivers that have other jobs they have to get to, but we'll just, I guess, have to cover that when we get come to that point, because like in Moss Bluff, for instance, we're doing double and triple routes, every one of us. So there's 4 of them in Moss Bluff that have other jobs. So if there's a delayed start, they're not gonna be able to pick up, I mean, they're gonna have to do 4, 5 routes to be able to get these kids to school. When there's an early release, of course, most parents pick their kids up and you don't have to run the whole route, so it's not as bad. So that was one that really needs to be addressed. Also, I think a lot of this is being addressed now, but I think a lot of this would have ended if we would have had a true, sincere apology. Okay. And I mean, I hope that this will never ever happen again, and if something does, I hope a true, sincere apology is made immediately. Thank you.
Ava Sullivan.
My name is Ava Sullivan. I am the Vice President of the Calcasieu Parish Bus Drivers Association, and I also drive Bus 052. Let me start by saying that I'm not asking for an apology. It's really too late for that. And I am not asking for compensation. I get paid to do a job. However, I do come here asking why we have someone that we pay $200,000 clearly absent that day. Why does the head of transportation, Mr. McDonald, not have the authority to ground buses? He should. I, for one, thank God that he was there. He and Mr. Sellers were the only 2 voices that we heard on the radio. That is my boss. That is the man I trust. That is the man I will listen to. I've been driving 20 plus years, and as a seasoned driver, I've driven in all kinds of weather. But parents, children, teachers, support personnel, and bus drivers were put in situations they should not have been. That were put in situations they should not have been put in, and making decisions they should not have had to make. I understand that you as board members don't have the authority to close school, but you do have the authority to make this right. You have constituents you must answer to, and I find it hard to believe that any of you have not received calls, emails, and any other type of communication. People mad about this. People are furious. The people that you represent, the people that you must answer to, are listening and watching what you say and do tonight. And come re-election time, people will remember this meeting.
Kathy Landry.
Good afternoon, I'm Kathy Landry. I am the district board rep for the Louisiana School Bus Operators Association. My grandchild, I don't have any children in school naturally, but I do have grandchildren. My grandchildren didn't go to school that day, and I don't understand how the breakdown happened. I understand that the day before this weather event, it didn't seem to be like it was, I wasn't concerned, I didn't see anything. But I knew that they were saying there was a possibility. I get up very early every morning, and I was up at 4 o'clock, and by 4:30, I could see, and that's what I don't understand. We heard a lot in the presentation about the day before. What about that morning? If you was watching the 4:30 KPLC news, It took a blind man to not see that wall of red. He said, don't put Ridley on the bus this morning. That's bad weather coming. Because you could hear it, if you switched to the Texas News, you could hear what was happening over in Texas. So I don't understand why we couldn't have grasped that, seeing that wall of red coming and them talking about, there was tornado warnings coming ahead of that, that was happening over there that we knew could possibly come in. And I laid there that morning and listened to the wind and the hail that I could tell was blowing sideways because it was hitting my window so hard I thought it's gonna come through any minute. And luckily God seen and spared me, and I had to pray for many neighbors because I had a tornado come within a mile, less than a mile from me. That one that come through Louisiana Avenue by the hospital, that's less than a mile from me. Then there was one not even 3 blocks north of me that happened, that came from Ryan, where Mr. Ford had said he would have been. That came from, and come by Sycamore, which is just 3 blocks north of me. So I was very blessed that I took on no damage. And didn't realize until some of these bus operators got home and my phone went to blowing up, that they couldn't believe what they had some of their face. I'm talking, they made it to schools. And then, not their school, but the nearest school they could get to try to get their kids off the bus and into safety. And the administrator of the school wouldn't open the door and let them in. Y'all, this was a nightmare for these people. And I appreciate what the school system is doing here to develop the protocols. I hope you follow them. And I would ask that you always err on the side of caution for our students and our bus operators. And I want to say to the bus operators, the boat stops with you, really. I know y'all have said this, and it would be a good thing if our director could say, my buses aren't rolling. Even if nobody else in the system said that, I think the transportation director should have that power without having to worry about his job. But that's what a lot of them was out there, not only were they concerned for their kids, but they were concerned for their job if they just simply didn't show up. But I will say, as your Louisiana rep, anytime you don't feel it's safe to ride that bus, you don't have to, and the federal government will back us up on that one.
Avery Corona.
Good evening. My name is Avery Corona, and I'm a student at Sulphur High School. I, like many others, were frustrated with CPSB's handling of the events of April 10th. The issue is not that school had not been canceled, it's that there was a complete failure to communicate their plan of action to a district responsible for almost 28,000 students and 5,000 employees. I was awoken at 6 a.m. that morning by countless severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings. At this point, many students were waiting on buses and getting ready to leave for school. Many of us looked at the catastrophe outside and around the shore. Do we start our day or do we hold off? What has CPSB said? We check Facebook and our other notifications, and we see nothing. We wait a little longer and conditions are worsening. I get a reminder at 7:01 from a teacher. There's no power right now at SHS and I'll be late. Do not put yourself in danger. So far, this was the most official statement I had received, and the warnings had yet to expire. I check again, still nothing. And for some odd reason, I do go to school. We may not have had power, but I trusted that a plan had been communicated to Sulphur High School staff. Besides, I didn't want to miss another day of school, and I had AP exams to prepare for. As I'm driving, it becomes evident that there is extensive damage throughout the city. Debris is everywhere, my street was flooded, and multiple trees were down that were blocking roads. As I entered school, janitors and staff provided instruction while awaiting guidance themselves. In that dark hallway, I find myself getting angry. How could CPSB leave us to fend for ourselves in these conditions? At that point, this silence had become quite dangerous in the fact that students, teachers, janitors, and bus drivers were put in danger. Remember this, 33,000 human lives to be responsible for. Many did make the decision to stay home, and good for them. I see the argument saying that parents are responsible enough to make choices for their children. However, it is important to remember that this ability is a privilege. Childcare isn't always an option for parents who still have to go to work, and employees won't always respect the decision to stay home in such short notice. A lot of kids cannot afford to have another unexcused absence, and some have parents who aren't even in the condition to make a wise choice. It's guidance over silence. And I understand that we as a parish also cannot afford to miss another day of school because of requirements, and I'm sure that our superintendent was mindful of past criticisms for cancellations for non-event storms or invisible eclipses. It would have been a better choice to extend the school year rather than jeopardizing those you are in charge of, or better yet, implementing a delayed start. But what's that? You finally say something hours after you knew conditions were unsafe, hours after you knew power was out across the parish, hours after you willingly put students and teachers on the roads to navigate storms and damage. You foolishly took a wrong path in this, and you risked way too much with your silence. And whatever the reason may be for this prolonged decision, it is imperative that you, being a part of an organization with such authority, do your job and provide guidance in such circumstances as this day. Each decision you will make will affect others and ultimately build your reputation brick by brick. On April 10th, you lost trust in countless, and this was a new brick for CPSB. And to you, I ask you, do you really want this to be the repertoire that causes your building to come crashing down? Thank you.
James Hyatt.
Thank you all. My name is James Hyatt. I do appreciate that you're holding this meeting and holding this space for this grief and this anger that is in this community over what has happened. I appreciate also that you are going to implement this. Sounds like you're going to vote on it. Seems like the most wise thing to do, a delayed start. What we did here was a lot of justifications for the reason why this happened. I'll take you through my April 10th morning. I was awakened by the weather alert, like most people in this room, that there was a tornado warning, not a watch, a warning at 6:14. I got that alert. At that time, you should have, somebody, your team, if not you, because you were on the road, somebody should have been able to shut it down, send people home, cancel schools. That didn't happen. I worked out at the plant, so we have the Swiss cheese model of safety where it takes all the holes of that Swiss cheese to line up for an incident to happen, and maybe this is one of these that happened. But in 2020, we had a storm, and then 6 weeks later, we had another storm, and then in February, we had a storm, and then a random Monday in May, we had a storm. This is not the first time we've encountered this, and this cannot be, we cannot say, oh yeah, we got it now, this is going to be the thing that's going to do. Every one of these recommendations from these bus drivers, the cafeteria workers who had to be at school, in dark schools, who didn't have power, have got to be implemented in this plan. A delayed start is a good start. An extra whatever app to tell us that the weather's bad. We had the information available at 6 o'clock, 6:14 in the morning to cancel schools. Another app will be fine. Another way will be fine. And in lieu of beating this dead horse into glue, there's nothing better than a Monday morning quarterback, but we are not listening well enough to the people affected. I had a Zoom meeting at 7 o'clock. I told my wife, as a school teacher, I have 3 in the school system. I asked them not to go to school. I said, I don't care if they cancel it or if they don't go. I went to my Zoom meeting. I opened the door, they were gone. And I'm like, well, I hope they make it to school. And for the parents of the kids who are waiting on the side of the road for a bus, I mean, these are lives, like they said, 33,000 lives. It's not just a number, these are like our friends and family. We've got to do better, we've got to listen better. And the text message that she had sent to KPLC said, we fully understand the impact of the weather. I don't believe we fully understand the impact of any of this weather. Okay? And And we should always err on the side of safety and compassion for our children and the children of others who may not have the access to stay. I got a text message earlier today. I'll end with this. My son has missed 8 days of school. I guess he'll have to make sure he makes the rest of this and make that extra day on the 23rd. We'll make sure he gets there. But I feel safe enough saying you don't have to go and we'll just deal with the consequences. But there are people who don't feel that autonomy or feel like the truancy department's coming and the crown is heavy, you know, to hold that responsibility for 33,000 lives in this parish. God willing, this will never happen again, and these things that we're doing will do that. But a better direct line between, especially the bus drivers, I think we've heard that they need better representation. This system does not work without bus drivers. The system doesn't work without cafeteria workers. We say we don't have enough money for these things, yet we know that there's, here we go, hundreds of millions of dollars in industrial tax exemptions. That may have been taken out of your hands by this governor, but it's another whole issue. We can do better. We can do better. They should be paid more and should be respected. And I want y'all to thank y'all for all that you do. Thank you.
Debbie Crosby.
Good.
Okay. Terry Johnson.
Terry Johnson, Southwest Louisiana Federation of Teachers. Everything's been said. It has. And we know that you guys don't have the power, but what's resonated through everybody talking has been directed at you, Dr. LaFleur. And I'm requesting you to stand up and address them and apologize. The hurt feelings that we've heard from all these people, but not only that, with the plans that have been made, and yes, we needed this. We needed the plans. That's fair. But a lot of people didn't have electricity. A lot of people were flooded in. And I think as a representative of our community, and I know you admit that, you know, a mistake was made, but I think if you address them directly tonight, that it will go a long way.
Everything goes into that bucket. Obviously, came out of my mouth, you didn't feel it. I let you down. You don't know me. No one can say anything tonight more than I'm disappointed in myself. I hurt you. And it is my fault. I take full responsibility. And for me, in the way I grew up, when you say you take responsibility, it means you apologize, it means you care, it means everything that goes into that. Because I have a sign in my office that says, blame no one, expect nothing, do something. I'm not blaming anybody. I don't expect anybody to just give me something I haven't earned, because I haven't earned your trust. But I'm going to do something about it tonight.
voiced your opinion, and I said in that video that didn't resonate with you. But what I said is this will never happen again. And you are the most valuable people. When I was COO, I talked before bus drivers. And I said, you're the first person every morning that a kid gets to see. And for you, you bus drivers, you know how much I care about you. Honestly, I get it. I get it. I get it. So yeah, I take the full responsibility. When everything that goes with that is an apology, it is a promise that we're going to get better. We're going to grow for you, for the kids, for the community and CPSB.
No. No, guys. Thank you, Dr. Parker. Ms. Johnson, are you done? Okay. Deborah Savoy. Is that right? Deborah L.C. Savoy, is that right? Sorry.
I am Deborah Churchman Savoy. I come through 6 parishes to get to my job in Calcasieu. I leave Vermilion. I travel through Iberia, Lafayette, Acadiana, Jeff Davis, and Calcasieu, just to get here. My colleagues back in my home parish think I'm crazy for working in this parish. I have received phone calls from my colleagues, and I have declined going to a crawfish ball coming up because I don't want to hear the ridicule. I'm not going to speak from the bus drivers or the teacher perspective. Today, I'm going to speak from the student perspective and the parent perspective. I have students that were so upset. One little girl cried. It's not good. It's not good. When you make decisions that impact our students, that we're terrified. Those bus drivers were trying to put on a brave face. Those kids were terrified. One of them was telling me about a building that had blown in front of the bus. Not good. Here's another perspective. When I finally got light in the house, because where I stay in Lake Charles, I come in twice a week. I come in on Monday morning and I come in on Thursday morning. So I do have a house that I stay in Lake Charles, but the way that the house is built, it was built in the 1970s and the windows are not big at all. So when I finally got not electricity, because I didn't get electricity until like 1:30 or 2 o'clock that day. When the light shone through the window and I was able to get myself dressed and out of the house, I went to to my brother's office because he had a generator and he was running on that. And one of his employees lives in Bell City. And she said, had I just known the night before, I could have made arrangements for my kids. She said, I got all the way to work in Lake Charles, had to turn around and go back to Bell City, go pick up the kids, and she said, I couldn't go and drop them off to the babysitter because the babysitter didn't have any supplies because she wasn't expecting them that week. So then she had to take off and go get food so that the babysitter could watch the kids. So, it puts a lot of people out of the way. You don't impact just the bus drivers, but bus drivers, I'm so sorry for y'all. And we do love and care about y'all. So you impact kids. Way back when they had the flooding that had happened that May, I had a little girl after that anytime it started raining hard, she would start crying and we'd have to call her mama to come and get her because she was one of those that didn't make it home until 2 o'clock in the morning. And she would get scared that it was gonna happen to her again. But yeah, so I'm just gonna say, it's more impactful and hurtful than, I just wish you could go back in time. I really do. That's all I wanna say.
I'm gonna do my best. Rochetta Ozane?
You know my name. My name is Rochetta Sibley Ozane. I am the founder, director, and CEO of the Bethel Project of Louisiana. Normally, I'm in front of a group of people and I'm fighting against all the pollution that we have in Southwest Louisiana and fighting against industry. And so many of you really know my name. You know my face. I'm the only Rochetta in the world. And I've spoken on many stages across the, across the world. And I gotta say that this is one of the most intimidating, not because of the people who are here, but because of the way that it's set up, this democracy of it all. People don't feel included. I stood up here and I watched each member as people came up here and poured their hearts out. And you can tell the ones who care, the ones who don't care, the ones who do.
Yeah, you're right!
The ones who paid attention, the ones who kept their eyes on the speaker the entire time, the ones who were almost brought to tears themselves as tears were shed by people that stood up here, the ones who nodded in agreement with some of the suggestions that were made, and then I saw the ones who couldn't care any less. And we already know
We do.
In several situations. I always say when I'm standing in front of a crowd that the people closest to the problem are the closest to the solution. The issue here has already been stated. We don't have any bus drivers up here. I don't know how many years our superintendent has taught in a school system or in a classroom, or how many years he's driven a bus either. And I have no ill will towards him, but we need people who are in the decision-making process in the room, who are the people who are in connection and in contact with those children every day. We need the teachers, the cafeteria workers, and the bus drivers to be on the crisis team as stated. The other thing that was suggested is that they need hazard pay. Where are you gonna get that money? I guess that rainy day fund that you have sitting to the side that you vote on every year. Money that you've gotten from industry through backdoor deals or whatever, because I felt if you all vote on whether these industries are going to pay taxes, so the next time you're making that decision on how much taxes you're going to allow them to not pay, think about all the things that could be paid for if they paid their fair share of taxes. And when it comes to this proposed delayed start, I hear the industry also has a lot to say about that, because it impacts them. I don't know if that's true or not. I hear a lot of things because I'm everywhere. But if it is true, I just say the industry has too much control over this school board, and it's time that you all take that control back, or somebody else comes and takes your place. On this school board, I have love and respect. Some of them have practically raised me, and they know who they are, and I would never disrespect them, because I want to say a lot of choice words right now, but I won't. So again, I've always been taught if you can't do the job well, then you move aside and let somebody else do the job. So this time, and lastly, I'll bring up what is being called the children's. Let me make sure I'm saying it correct. The children's blizzard of 1888. We're in 2024. What happened in 1888? I see a lot of you are scratching your heads, pointing your eyes. Children were sent to school on a snowy day, and when they got to school, a blizzard happened. They knew that a storm was coming. This was in an area where it snows all the time.
1 minute.
But these kids went to school anyway on that day because the schools were not shut down. Several children died in the blizzard at the bus stop because the weather was more than what was predicted. And because it was 1888, they didn't have the means of communication that we have now. Before the April 10th, April 9th, April 8th, April 7th, April 6th, April 5th, my phone rang several times from CPSB. The school is implementing our new metal detectors. Please have children prepared. I got an email, I got a text message, I got a phone call, a voicemail. I think they even sent a carrier picture. But yet on the day of this storm, silence. And yet she read out the text that she sent that they read on KPLC, but my lights in Carlos were out at 6 a.m. I didn't see KPLC. I was posting on Facebook letting people know that I wasn't going to send my children to school. My kids can miss 20, 30, 40 days. I'll stand up in a truancy court because I'm going to argue my case. Everybody doesn't have the ability to do that. And lastly, what I want to say is some of the members of the school board and some of the employees jumped in my inbox and I screenshot their messages telling me to take down my posts about the school. I'm gonna post what I wanna post because I participate in every election that happens in the state of Louisiana. So don't tell me what I can and can't say. Again, if you can't do your job thoroughly, if you don't have the expertise, if you don't have the knowledge, if you're not close to the problem and understand what people have, the decisions people have to make every day, recuse yourself. Step down yourself. Don't wait on an election because I'm pretty sure
Thank you.
Loretta Owsley, bus 2406. We have no way of knowing what Mother Nature's gonna do. This is something that's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen without knowing. You might have meteorologists that's gonna try to help us, that's okay, but it doesn't mean that we're gonna know what's gonna happen. But I do know that whenever you're on a bus and you have kids and you have these babies that you put up front with you to try to protect them, and I don't know who said that they were safe. They were not safe. They were mentally disturbed. And I can assure you, these kids were scared sitting up the front, and we have to be strong for them to show that they're in a safe place, that everything's gonna be okay. My question is, one of the drivers told me the bus was with the wind. Had that bus been the other way, he said, I promise you, it probably would have tipped over. Now, if my life was taken or one of these kids' lives were taken, am I responsible? Are you responsible? You? Who? Who's responsible for these kids' lives? The parents are gonna be very irritated because we got them in this weather. I don't understand why we have to be on a bus with this weather. And like I said, it can happen without us knowing. It's happened before and it will happen again. But our job is to keep them safe, and we're gonna do that. But you have all these people out here that we depend on, all you people up here, to be on our side. We're a family. And if we can't do that, I do know that there's 3 people up there that I've heard people talk about that I don't even know yet. But the stuff I hear, I'm thinking, my goodness, why can't we just get along, take care of you people, because we are family. Get rid of the arrogance. Tarver, I've heard more people talk about your arrogance. Extremely smart. Your mom and dad, I have the most respect for them. But you couldn't even with your education, remember or even pronounce this woman's name on that card. I don't understand that part. But you're good at what you do, and I appreciate you, but drop the arrogance. I beg you, because we can't do it. Now, whenever you think about being on a school bus in this type of weather, and you're trying to protect these kids, I beg all of you to be on our side, not be against us. We want that from y'all. That's it. Thank you.
Who's up? Anybody? Go ahead, Mr. O'Banion.
I want to thank everyone, not just the bus drivers, but I was out that morning and I know the cafeteria workers, the janitors, teachers, everybody was out in it. I'm gonna say again, I'm sorry that y'all were put in that position.
Thank you for those.
And then I had a couple of questions for the war room. Has that been there a while? So
Just this year.
was it used that morning?
No, it was not.
And I've been told, you know, I shouldn't talk about these things in public, but could be talking about it. And just what time did you get here that morning? Physically get here? Roughly, I mean, not exactly.
Before 7.
Well, I mean, I think we know the answer, but who made the call to find out?
I did.
And then another thing that I didn't really see addressed in here, but I think it was a serious issue, as bad or worse as the call that was made, was communication. Because I was in a school and I found out, standing beside a principal, from a student holding their phone up, saying that we were dismissing at 8:30. But I got calls from principals that couldn't get in touch with anybody. They didn't know what to do. They shouldn't be put in that position. And I just think going forward, we need to put some communication protocols in place too. Because when, in a situation like this, when there's no power, maybe no internet, emails aren't the way to go. I mean, we need that backup. And I personally want to thank, you know, y'all been referred to as the team, but I know y'all are here, I know what y'all are doing, and I don't think that y'all have gotten some criticism that wasn't due to y'all, and I just want to apologize to y'all.
I'd like to thank everybody who came out this evening. Thank you for the phone calls. Thank you for the emails. Like I said, prior to this meeting, I addressed it to everybody that sent me an email personally. If you send it to the whole board, you got it directly from me. What I sent to one, I sent to all. Because that's what I stand for. And that way, you know who I am. And like I told you, I'm social media to getting information out. I'm not on social media to bash anyone. If you ever need to communicate with me, there's two ways of communication. It's phone calls and emails, or face-to-face. The Facebook, I don't go with that. I only give out positive information that we need to give to our constituents. I understand everybody is upset. I'm a parent, I'm a grandmother as well. I'm an ex-educator. And I have respect for cafeteria workers, bus drivers,
administrations, para, everybody. And I still respect Dr. LaFleur. We have to have respect behind our names. Excuse me? Thank you. Y'all voice what y'all wanted to voice, we have a plan in place. We follow protocol and procedures. The board has been blamed for so much things, but we are behind y'all. I am behind you. I can't speak for nobody else, but I can speak for my district and other districts. That morning, I lost power. I was communicating with some of my board members. I communicated with Dr. LaFleur. I communicated with my principals to make sure everybody was fine. I don't have all bus drivers' phone numbers. But I prayed that morning when I got up for safety, that no one was killed. This could have been a bad fatality, could have happened, we didn't have that. We still have to praise God for what happened that morning. And if I could pay y'all hazard pay, y'all would have it. But we have to be declared to get hazard pay. Only thing I'm gonna ask everybody to do is keep the faith in whoever we have as a leader. No one is perfect. We get blamed for when we close school. We get blamed when we don't close school. And weather is unpredictable, Mother Nature is. So I ask everybody going forward, we have a plan in place, and let's please stick together as a team, as a family. And I appreciate everyone who came up this afternoon. Thank you.
Go ahead, Reverend Wilson.
Just in brief, and again, just following along with what others have already indicated up here, just from the board standpoint, again, just want to just share our sincere apologies with you all for whatever and however you went through on April 10th. As a parent, as a board member, and also the son of someone who was out there with you all that morning, driving, and had to pull over for safety. I understand, and I believe that every one of us up here, we understand your frustration. But another apology that I want to make sure of is to apologize for the simple fact that something like this has not been done 10, 20, 15 years ago. Because of the simple fact that I asked the question, when has weather events started? When did they start? That's right. That means it's been around for a number of years. But I can applaud all of your input, your communication, to surveys, as well as calls, as well as pulling me aside in the stores, as well as parishioners at church talking with me about this situation, who all fall in the same category as a parent, a transportation driver, an employee with the school district, or a community member. I thank you for your input, because now we have something in front of us that is a policy, or that may be voted into being a policy, which means there is accountability that must be followed and procedures that must be taken. So that if we ever have to revisit something like this and we have a policy that's been implemented, well, guess what? There will be individuals held accountable, because now we have something in front of us that says this is what we're going to do. And so as we move forward as a district, this wasn't the first time that we've ever experienced something of the such. But now we do have something in front of us that we can move forward from. And again, I thank you all for all of your input. I thank you so much for just communicating, because every single one of us here, even your administrators and all, they listen. And it's our job as board members, no matter what, we serve you. You call us, guess what? It's our job to make sure, hey, that we communicate. If you feel like you don't have a voice, well, guess what? We're your voice. And you continue to hold us accountable. But one of the ways that you can do that, just as I think about a month and a half ago, and I'm almost done, but a month and a half ago, maybe a little bit over, I think that the board, we decided, by a vote, to do something that in my, I don't remember it being happening before, to my knowledge, but we voted to absorb the cost of insurance. Because why? We got the emails, we were pulled aside in stores, and you communicated with us what you wanted. And there was a necessity to do such. And so that's what this is today. And so when we, as we take our vote on these policies, well, just know that we have to stand by this, because this is what your board members do. Budget, policy. That's what we're here for. And this is us answering and making sure that we are hearing your voice. So I really thank you, and I appreciate all of you for what you do, what you have done, and what you continue to contribute to this district.
Mr. Broke.
I was not in town on the 9th and the 10th. I was actually at MD Anderson in Houston dealing with my own personal cancer and stuff. But I want to commend everybody for two things. One, my godmother she retired a couple of years ago, was a bus driver, and an uncle of mine was a bus driver. The courage that it took to get on the bus, to go get the kids, to drive through that weather, to do what you needed to do, commend y'all for that. I rode the bus my entire time I was in school. I know what it's like there, and we lived in Oklahoma for 6 years. So when you talk about tornadoes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen countless tornadoes on a bus up there. It is terrifying and it's scary to be able to do that. And that's coming from a child at that time witnessing that. I can't imagine what it would be like being the parent, or not the parent, the adult in the bus trying to protect them and to do things. So I commend y'all for doing that. I also want to commend y'all for the manner in which y'all all came up and you spoke tonight, which is exactly why I voted against adding it to the agenda item the other night, because that would have gotten a little out of control. It kind of allows their cooler heads for Bill, get your talking points aligned, but it also allows staff to come in to be able to take all the input information, be able to come up with a plan to try to address that. So as y'all come and talk to us, it allows y'all to hear what their plans are that they're going to present to us, to be able to do that, to get feedback on all of that. So it's kind of it's a give and take kind of deal. We have in this country, we have laws and policies, and laws and policies exist because laws are usually because somebody did something stupid that they shouldn't have done, so they had to pass a law to be able to address that. Policies are kind of the same way. Things happen that nobody ever thought of, or something changed that needed to be done, so you put a policy in place. That's kind of what allows this. I'm sure there's gonna be things that come up in the future that we're gonna have to change the policy for, or to create a policy for. Nobody, Monday morning quarterbacks are used to be able to look at something, if that happens, we should have this, and this. But there are some things that you just can't plan for. Weather, some of them, like somebody said in the past, I think it was the last lady that spoke, you're gonna get criticized some days for closing school, and you wake up the next morning, clear blue skies. And some days it just happened like that. But I mean, that's why we have policies in place. That's why we're trying to address a lot of this tonight. I do have a couple of questions. Does the director of transportation, like you were going out of town or whatever, does he have the authority to come in to stop the buses from going out? I mean, I don't know, I'm asking. I don't know if he does or not, or is that something that comes from, what's the decision of the protocol?
We currently don't have a protocol. The protocol is we have discussions about, the question I had to them was, we have buses on the road, and kids stopped. So in our discussion, we have to pick the kids up. staff, and then the buses aren't picking up the kids. So we pick the kids up, bring them to the school so they can be safe. We talked about, we do drive in hazardous weather. And our protocols are, we proceed cautiously. We move over into areas that are safe if we experience high winds or severe weather. And we felt like our bus drivers did that. They did exactly what they were supposed to do under very extreme circumstances. And they delivered the kids to the school.
Well,
We pushed out quasi-delayed start information in real time. That's why we pushed out that message to KPLC, is we understand there's gonna be delays. That's okay. The message was delivered to KPLC before the tornado warnings. So all that is happening in real time. Couldn't go back and then cancel school at that point. The decision was made, we have to pick the kids up. We need to bring them to school so they can be safe and secure, so we can have accounting of where the kids are, so we can assess all the schools, the power, the administration, the point of contact, the communication, buying us some time. We come out at 6, because we discussed closing school. But it's a late time to be able to do that, knowing we have kids at stops, they need to be picked up, they need to be brought to school so we can ensure that we have an accounting of those kids. And then we can return them to home safely. And fortunately, that was done, again, under extreme circumstances.
But the only, and I understand, I mean, when you get, 5 o'clock, it's just, you don't make the call, then it gets kind of hard to kind of shut things down at that point, because everything, from the parents at home, the students, I get all that. One lady, and I think it was, I don't remember who said it, but it kind of, it made my ears kind of perk up, and one thing you were kind of talking about is that she had stopped at the closest school to the proximity where her route was, I guess, and tried to get kids inside that school, and they were told they weren't allowed to do that.
They should have been allowed.
Now, can we have that addressed at whatever that particular location was, and then make sure that all of our campuses know that in the event something like that, when the bus drives up, get the kids in school?
Yes, we definitely, we have that, our protocols to address that with all of the administrators.
Okay. That's all.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Mr. Sean.
First off, I want to thank everybody for their emails and text messages and phone calls. Every person that sent me a thing, I told them, hey, look, we're gonna get better from this. It's a big shift. It doesn't steer quick, but we're gonna get the policy in place to address these. And every person I told y'all, I said, look, we're gonna do something to fix this. It's gonna come, and this is coming. We got the policy coming. So this has been a perfect thing to use Monday, and hopefully it's gonna fix a lot coming in the future. So I want to thank you all. You are really couldn't have handled it any better. I've heard the stories out there, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so proud that we have these people out here making these decisions and making the right calls I wouldn't even have thought of making to save these children, make sure they're safe in the right spots, in the right positions. Y'all did it, teachers, staff, principals, bus drivers, everybody. Thank y'all for that. Y'all made the right calls on that, so thank y'all for that. One thing I do want to ask though, Dr. Clark, I know Cameron Parish decided to close that morning. What point is it too late for us to have decided to close? Like, is there a time limit that we have where it can't be undone?
Ideally at 5 a.m. We did that earlier this year. That would be the time that we would look at, and that's why we have that in the protocol.
So we need to
The
make a
delayed
call
start.
before 5 o'clock from now to close.
Yes, we wanted the static times in this, so there would be no confusion going forward. That 10 a.m. would be the delayed start time. The night before at 9 p.m., we would send out the message that we're pushing the delayed start button, so to speak. And then at 5 a.m., the decision would be made to whether we are having school for the delayed start or we're canceling school, depending
driving a school bus, so I know that you, what you endure on a daily basis with the students. Either throwing wads of paper at you or cussing, or you're trying to watch the road and then, discipline them as well. So I completely understand that. She did it for over 20 years. And it's a tough job, and I thank y'all for doing everything that y'all do on a daily basis, especially when the weather is the way it was. I do have a few questions or another couple comments. So my wife teaches at a private school, and she was able to make a phone call to their students prior to 6 o'clock, saying that they were going to have a delayed start. So I know that there was plenty of time that school could have been canceled. I do want to go to the delayed start thing regarding the private school versus the public school. The difference in why a private school at that point could say we're having a delayed start is because they get delivered to the school by their parents. Okay, so they're not picked up by a bus. So they have that, and we're able to do that because of that. It's a little bit different when you have 20-something thousand kids and 260-something bus routes and everything else to all of a sudden say we're going to have a delayed start. So with that being said, I do have a couple of, I guess, questions, comments really, that I was really bothered by Dr. LaFarge. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but around 9-something p.m. on the Monday night, every board member here received a text after a number of board members, and this is with all due respect as well. A number of board members sent you text messages about being closed the next day because the state was closing, the other parish had already closed. And after 9 o'clock at some point, we received a text from our superintendent that says, "We are open, period." Okay? With that, and what that meant to me was, I'm Lord and in charge. And I don't care about nobody.
Yeah, you're right!
I also sent an email to you as well on the day of the last meeting that we had that said, I would encourage you to offer an apology to the bus drivers and everyone that's here, because I knew that we were going to have a large crowd like we have tonight. And we did receive a reply a couple of days later from you. But I think, and it's been said by some of the people out here, that if a true apology would have been given, we may not be sitting here right now. We would be sitting here discussing a delayed start program. And although you gave one tonight, I'm glad you did that. I think it was as they would say, a day late and a dollar short. It should have been done sooner. The video that was sent out, I'm going to say it, just like many of these, I didn't get anything out of it. I have utmost respect for you, and I think we understand each other as well. But I do have some questions. Number one, Mr. Bro made up a good point. A chain of command. Used to, they were called assistant superintendents. I don't know who was in charge at that time. But do we have a chain of command that says if you're in the hospital, in ICU, who is in charge? Okay. So I don't think we need to have that tonight, but I think that's something that we need to get going, whether it's Dr. Van Meter, whether it's Big A, whether it's Barrington, whether it's risk management. Someone needs to be in charge. If you're in the ICU on an event, or God forbid, we don't want that to happen, but if something happens and you're out of town, we need to have someone that is in charge of the schools and can make the decisions. In the opening procedures, the delayed start procedures, one of the things that we had and we saw was virtual days for alternative sites. So I'm not sure how a alternative site can have virtual days, because they probably don't have the little kids in elementary school probably don't have a laptop, which is the elementary kids probably don't take their laptops home either. So how can the alternative school have the alternative sites have a virtual day, but we can't have a virtual day for our school as well? That by doing that may be eliminating the problems that we're having as far as having to mess with the calendar. So I don't know if Dr. family who can answer that, or who can answer that. Why alternative sites can have virtual days, but the parents cannot have virtual days. Can you answer that? Can you address it? Sure, sure.
I'll actually give you an example with yesterday, okay? So, when we met on Sunday, to talk about what the plan was gonna be for yesterday in terms of closing school, we talked a little bit about virtual. The problem with virtual is this late in the year, for example, seniors have already sent laptops back, right? We've got testing that's going on in schools right now, so some schools have collected laptops so that they can do testing at school. So we can put a virtual day on the books for yesterday, right? But the bottom line is virtual instruction isn't really gonna happen, especially this late in the year. The problem with a virtual day is that some schools also, like you said, with very young students, may not have devices that they send home every day. So they're using them every day at school, they may not send them home. Virtual days can be very, very useful when we know we're gonna have cold weather, 4 days in advance. Hey, everybody send out devices so we can make sure that we're okay. For virtual, if we got a tropical storm coming, we know in advance. For a night before or 5 o'clock in the morning call, it's awful hard to have virtual at a system our size. That answer the question?
Yeah, I'm just curious how the alternative site can have a virtual day.
Yes, sir. So with an alternative site too, we're dealing with a smaller number of students too.
I think there's a whole other, I guess I'm just confused about that.
Yes, sir.
So the other couple of things that I had regarding the delayed start, so we have the janitors and the cafeteria workers. What time, a bus driver, say if our delayed start is at 10, we're gonna start school at 10, so a bus driver's gonna probably get on there and start their route at 8. Are teachers required to be to school at whatever, 9:45, or whatever their appropriate time is, or are they supposed to be there at 8? Same thing with
resource for notification.
Do we know what cost on it as well?
We are utilizing it as a sandbox, just trying it out and see if that's something that we want to do.
On the change of calendar issue, that's going along, well, that's,
We'll next second.
okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Baumgartner, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what some of the other board members have said. We would like to thank personally the bus drivers, the support staff, the teachers, the admin, everyone who got out that morning to protect our children. My wife is a teacher. I told her she had 13 minutes to leave the house, and she teaches at Gillis, and she made it. But it was very harrowing and very scary for her. But we're blessed in this community to have teachers, admin, bus drivers who care about our kids, who put their life on the line every day, no matter what it is. And I just want to personally thank all of y'all, because it's not just obligation or duty, it's because y'all really care about our kids. And I just want to thank y'all.
I just too want to say thank you to all of the bus drivers. I need to let you know that my dad was a bus driver for 27, 28 years. I drove the bus once, it didn't end well, but I do want you to know that my dad loved driving the bus. And he was at the age where he could have a strap on his bus. He didn't use it, he didn't even spank us, but he had it on there and the kids were afraid. But I just know how much he loved every kid that stepped on his bus. And I know with a certainty that you all feel the same way about every kid that steps on your bus. I also want to just tell the administrators, we do appreciate those who open your doors and allow students to enter. We absolutely thank you so much for that. And if you want another apology, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so sorry for what happened on the 10th. All I could think about that morning was the students I would see standing out on the side of the road waiting on their bus. And as I drove down the street, all I could see were the tree limbs and what could have possibly happened. So I do want you guys to know that we are with you, we support you all the way. Thank you.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes, I also would like to thank you. I never rode a bus to school, I had to walk.
Ooh.
But I do remember the tornado drills in school, in the halls, knees up, head between. Some of you out there remember these drills, I'm sure. And I thank you for coming this evening. However, I knew that you would get your opportunity to speak one way or the other. Yes, and let me tell you why I voted no. And I've explained this. Several bus drivers are very close friends to me. And I spoke with them and I shared it. When the meeting is over, I'll wait around and I'll explain to you, ma'am, why I voted the way I do. I don't usually defend how I vote. But I will be honest with you, since you said I didn't, and it was a reason that you didn't get to speak. I will wait around and I'll share with you that vote. But it's not my character to defend how I vote. I usually don't, but I will do it this evening for you. So when the meeting is over and you ask me, I'll let you know why. Is that all right? Well, everybody wants to know? Because I felt like we'd be setting a precedent. The reason that we have the law, 8-day notification, I think Mr. Tarver kind of hit on it that night. if we start adding things to the agenda because of a particular issue, and we vote on it or whatever, it wasn't to protect us, it was to protect you. Because at some point, somebody else is going to come and want to add something to the agenda. And after the vote is taken, you're going to say, well, I thought they were gonna do this then, I didn't know enough about that. It's not to protect us, it's to protect you from other people putting stuff on the agenda. And it only took one vote. I was gonna vote no anyway, and I'm addressing the ma'am who said you voted no. It only took one vote for it not to be on the agenda, and Mr. Tarver had shared that he was a no. But I was going to be a no anyway, and I was not going to be intimidated and change my vote for that night. What? No, I'm not getting bold. This is me. This is me. If you know anybody who knows me, just ask them how I am. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna lie about anything. And that's not calling it bold. I'm just answering a question. And I was told not because of you. And I shared why I voted the way I did.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gay. Mr. Roberts?
Don't want to stay here all night, but thank you, drivers, and just echo some of the same things that were said. I want to thank the team who was going through that in the morning. It was a team. It sounds like there was good communication. We're going to get better from it. I'm reminded by a verse, James 8:7. He that is guilty of sin is the first stone. No one's perfect. We're not perfect. Our administration's not perfect. Okay? And our superintendent's not perfect. But we made a priority to not close schools because the buses were already rolling and the kids were already on the curb. And so, I think we need to move forward with this policy, and we're gonna get better for it. This should have been done in 21. It should have been done in 2017 when we made the national news because a bus drove in the ditch full of kids. So this is not the first time we as a board or an administration has failed and not fixed things, but we are fixing them tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Natale?
I think every board member said something, so I guess I'll be the last one and wrap it up. Certainly appreciate everyone coming out, voicing their opinions and their concerns. Some of you guys are actually sharing what happened. And I think everyone has said it, you know, mistakes were made. There were opportunities. I actually thought we might have closed schools whenever the state had shut down their offices, but it didn't happen. I'm just thankful that the bus driver did such a good job picking up the kids, getting them to school. It's been said multiple times that you guys did a great job taking care of the kids and put yourselves at risk. And I was gonna echo what Mr. Roberts said also. You know, it's our job to put policy in place and to vote on fiscal responsibility things. And so, you know, we probably should have addressed this, but I don't think anyone had the foresight to see that this was gonna happen. It did. The only thing we can do is learn from it. I think everybody wants to do that, learn from it, make some changes, and put things in place so that we can provide a safe environment for our students, for our employees, and that's it.
All right. So the item on the table is the proposed changes, not the, we have a separate item for the adding the minutes or adding the days. So the item is basically accepting the staff changes that were presented, the weather-related recommendations that were presented. So all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. One nay. Okay. A question? Okay. Well, we voted already, so the vote's done. I'll tell you what, when we go around on the second thing, I'll give you some leeway to ask another question, but that vote is done, but let the record reflect Dr. Washington says no. I'll give you some leeway to ask a question on the next round. That vote's done, that passes with one no, which is, I guess, however many are here minus one, Ms. Peggy, sorry. So that passes. Second item is the recommendation to add the day and a half. Dr. LaFarge, remind us exactly what the proposal is. It's here, this is it. So
moved.
motion is to accept the proposal as it is up here. Mr. Roberts was the motion. Mr. Natale was the second. So now let's go. Let's open up discussion on that item. Dr. Washington, go ahead and make some leeway, but let's keep it brief.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. LaFleur, do we have the option to request a waiver from the state for that day and a half?
We do, but we could look into it.
Okay, because in the past, I think we discussed it at length about requesting a waiver when there are weather events that are beyond our control. And also I wanted to ask you, if I could, I know Bulletin 741 said we needed 63,000 minutes per year. Do you know how many minutes we would have if we did not add the day and a half?
So you're right, we're required 63,720 minutes is what we're required. We currently have 65,360 if we do everything with so we're 4 days over is what it amounts to. We would be a day and a half short, so that's roughly 570 minutes, something like that short. So you're talking about probably, if you don't do this and you wanted to say go an extra amount of time for those days, I think probably the fastest you could get it out and publicize it for us to start this would be next Monday. To pay for 1 day, you're probably looking at around 30 minutes, probably 45. It's 28 minutes actually. Per day. So you would have to go longer per day for 14 days.
So my final question is,
Yes,
could we have a virtual day on that day and a half?
You could. You'd be getting into the same thing that we had with the reason we didn't do virtual yesterday, which is, I mean, in terms of the number of computers that we have out there, then it would be 0 because all of those would have to be returned. We could, on the books, say we had a virtual day. I think it would be pretty hard for me to justify it.
And the reason I asked because in the past, and I don't know if it's true present, in the past, the state has given us options for virtual instruction. It didn't just have to be you're on a computer. You can assign packets to students and they complete them. Or in the case of the special education students, the state mandated that we provide instruction. We were able to provide telephone instruction, or we were able to give them packets and do things like that. So those were options.
Yes, ma'am, and you're right, we could definitely do that, but we probably wouldn't want to do it the last 2 days of school, because what would end up having to happen is all those would have to come in, we'd have to get them graded, we'd have to get those grades inputted, and we'd have to close out. I think you're talking about a much bigger issue.
But we could do it starting Monday and make up those 30 minutes with some type of.
You can, yes ma'am, so what I've calculated is, if you went basically 30 minutes, it's gonna pay for 1 day, is what it's gonna do. So you're looking at 30 minutes is gonna be for a day. If you're gonna pay for a day and a half, you're looking at roughly 45. So, now that would be every day starting Monday on.
Mr. O'Brien?
Kind of back to Dr. Washington's question. That'd be you. Do you know
we're gonna do this as a board, you could do it conceivably at the next board meeting.
Well, that's what
But then what ends up happening is, your number of days you can divide by that total number of minutes gets way smaller. So, I mean, what would end up happening then is you would have to go way longer per day. Does that make sense? Because you'd have less days to divide.
I guess we are gonna at least check with the state. I mean, I don't know if that's a waiver. I don't know if I need to make an amendment, to pending what the state says. If we can get that approval, then we obviously won't have to do this. So, I don't know if I need to make an amendment, Mr. Belfort.
So the motion is the motion was to accept it as it was presented, which was, well, it's not up there now. It was add a day and a half, add a half day to a whole day. That's the motion.
For students only, right?
So it doesn't add any days for teachers. Anyway, I'm just clarifying, if you want to do anything differently than that, you need to propose an amendment that we
Well,
can then.
I guess my amendment would be pending, if we can get the state approval, then. Students.
Okay.
I don't know how to work it.
Well, I guess you would just have to say you want to amend it to, instead of doing it, request a waiver. The problem with that is it's gonna take forever, but I guess if you get a second, we can try it. All right, so we have a motion and a second I just probably a substitute motion. You should probably say it's a substitute motion.
I think you could handle it by adding to the motion, subject to the state's decision on the request for waiver.
That's fine, if that's what you want to do. Do we have any idea how long okay, yeah, that's fine. So,
This way, if the state doesn't make a decision by the time that you have to implement.
which Monday morning, we're gonna, the earliest we could possibly get it changed is Monday morning, right?
No, I'm sorry.
No, that's the earliest we
The
could.
reason I suggested Monday was because we can't say tomorrow, hey, we're gonna start and we're gonna go 30 minutes longer every day or 45 minutes longer every day. That doesn't make any sense. So we needed to be able to publicize to our parents, and that's why I was thinking of Monday.
So I guess, let me just clarify so we know what we're doing. You want to amend it to add, he's gonna get on the phone at first thing tomorrow morning and ask Superintendent Brumley, can we get a waiver? But if we can't, then we proceed with the extra days.
Just wanna put that in there. So
Okay.
if we can't get the
Yeah,
paper, we don't have to
right.
go back and do it.
But if we can't, you want it just to default back to the extra days. Okay, so does everybody understand that amendment? Dr. Washington's already seconded, so the second was Dr. Washington. Okay, relatively simple, let's vote on, does anybody want to discuss that amendment? Please no. Okay, good, excellent. All right, all in favor of his amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, good, excellent, simple amendment, that's unanimous. So now, you understand? Okay, now we're back to the original motion. Who was, I'm sorry, the motion as amended, who was I even on? Who had the floor? All right, are you done? Are you good? Go ahead, Mr. Baumgartner.
The packet thing, could the teachers make those packets early and have the kids turn them in before the end of school, and those count as an instructional day? Could they do the packet, say, get the packet together? I know it's a little extra work for the teacher. Could you get the packet together next week and send it home and expect it back before the end of school? And that counts as an instructional day? The virtual instructional day.
Yes, sir. I mean, we could do whatever the state allows us. If they say that we can do that, then we'll do that.
Most kids don't go to school the last couple of days. But if we give them some kind of instructional package to do, that would incentivize them to learn a little bit more before the summertime. This has to be, this would be graded, this is going to be in school, it's going to count as instructional days, so you don't have to come to school the second half of that one day and the last Friday, whatever it is.
So that can probably be, you can probably request, hey, will this work from the superintendent, right? And that's probably a good thing to put in there. we don't need to make another amendment to do that, do we? Good.
Please
We could do that.
repeat what we're going to be.
So the motion
Throwing
is
a lot
to.
of conversation out
Right.
there, but I'm not following.
Okay, so the motion on the table is the adjustment as it was up there, which is to add the half a day to a full day and add another day at the end. It was going to be, teachers only, it would be students. Mr. O'Banion added to the motion, but first, can we call Department of Education and request a waiver of the time where we don't have to make up the days? And Mr. Baumgarten said, shouldn't we also assign some work for those days where if they don't come to work, but they do some work, will that count as instructional days?
Well,
I think all those things are probably.
I'm actually having a problem with that, Mr. Carver.
Hang on, Ms. Gay.
Okay.
Let me go through, I'll just skip Mr. Castillo and wait for Mr. Baumgarten. You good? Mr. Castillo's good. Then Mr. O'Banion, we got, sorry, go ahead, Ms. Gay.
Okay, I'm kind of having a problem with that. We're gonna do this, we might do this. I need to know what I'm voting for tonight. Packets to go home, waiting to hear from Bromley to see what he agrees to. It's almost too much in that motion. We need to trim that down a little bit.
Ms. Gay,
Now, Mr. O'Banion, I can understand, but when we move to packets and this other stuff, what we could do, let's get a ruling on what we can do.
What's currently on the table is add the half a day and add the day. It's essentially what we're voting on. With Mr. O'Banion's comments about asking if we can get the days waived. But I think we need to proceed with a vote, assuming that's not gonna happen, so they know what we're supposed to be doing if that doesn't happen. Anybody else have any more questions? Go ahead, Mr. Castillo.
So this is more for, Mr. McDonald. Does this affect the return of the buses in any such way? I know it usually gives you 2 days, so you would have 2 days to do that. Now you're going to be returning all the buses in 1 day, is that correct?
I mean, we haven't done it in 1 day, I'm not afraid to try. I mean, if our students are in school, we try to bring them to and from.
My kids don't show up.
Mr. O'Banion?
Karen, go ahead.
What if we cut out, any enrichment, would that help with the minutes?
No, ma'am. So, yeah, so we have to do the actual instructional minutes, so even those count.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we're all clear. This is it is a little bit last second, which is, no avoiding it. It's not ideal, but there's no avoiding it. It is last second. We definitely can't wait. One thing was mentioned, wait for the next board meeting. We can't wait for the next board meeting. All right, so are y'all clear on what the motion was? Is everybody clear on what the motion was? Okay, all right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Good, excellent. That was the only item on the agenda. That being said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion, Mr. Bro, who's down here? Who was it? Dr. Washington. All in favor say aye.